Welcome back. I hope all of you are well. This video is mainly going to be a small update. I hadn't really planned to do a video so soon. It just spontaneously happened that way. I have written down some notes here, so I have a little bit of a structure. We'll see how well I stick to that. Like today has been sort of a crazy day. I had some work that I had to take care of, and high on the list for today was doing some repair to my car and then taking it to get it inspected, and I've still got to get the tag for it and all that stuff. But it was just a lot of running around and hectic type stuff, and I'm still in the process of getting my sleep schedule somewhat straightened out. And so yeah, I'm running on not a whole lot of sleep at the moment. The theme for this video primarily is going to be things that I've come across recently that evoked a feeling and a sentiment of gratitude. I do, at some point probably near the beginning, I want to do another reading as I did in the previous video. It's probably going to be another 3-card spread, and I haven't decided yet if it's going to be for the next few days, sort of interconnected to the last reading, or you know, what the direction is going to be for this. Working with these oracle cards is something that I really want to invest time in. At the same time, I feel sort of strange doing readings for myself and working with the cards just for me. I would much rather do that for someone else. So yeah, I don't know how that's going to play out yet. Yeah, I think I'm just going to go ahead and begin some of this that I've got jotted down just to sort of make some progress, and I will try to remember to do the reading somewhere in the middle. So first things first, recently I started rewatching a TV series that I stumbled across years ago. Most of you probably have already seen this, but for those of you who haven't, I certainly recommend it. It's a TV series called Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, and it's based on a book written by Susanna Clark, and I'm going to link to this in the description of this video. There's a great interview that Neil Gaiman did with her about this book and some of her other work, and it's just really, I really love it. It's really neat, so definitely check that out, and look for and check out this TV series. And the book. The book is really good too. I've got that over there on the shelf. I believe that this series is on Netflix, or at least it used to be. I don't have Netflix right now, so I can't be sure of that, but you can find it online in places. But definitely check that out. So I'll move on to some books that I'm reading right now. This is The Vision. Sorry for the glare. It's by Dean Koontz. It's about a psychic who was sort of going through this investigation trying to stop a serial killer, and as you can see, it's a very thin book. Like, I've been reading it sporadically off and on. I mean, I'll be done with it probably by tomorrow. I tend to read really fast. So, but it's been enjoyable so far. Also, I will share this with you. It's another book by Dean Koontz called Breathless. And it is about these magical creatures that appear in this community, and this weird sort of magical phenomena starts appearing. There again, both of these books are okay. They're not necessarily two books that I would rave about, but I did enjoy them. Um, so that's kind of been on the reading list, along with, of course, a book that I have mentioned in several videos and podcasts. And as you can see, it's got a few sticky notes here and there. I use this book a lot for the ritual work that I've been doing recently and just research. I am literally almost finished reading it. I've got maybe 50 pages left. Yeah, so, but it's been an interesting read, and at some point I want to go back through this book, and as I had mentioned in a previous video, I want to deconstruct some of these rituals and figure out what elements within them are important to me, and sort of stitch this together in my own way, at least for now. I think that would be the best approach. This reminds me of something else that I wanted to share that I didn't include here in the notes, but when I was talking about ritual, it just, there was that internal dialogue. So, let's take a trip in time. Let's go back about, I tend to reference 20 years. It may have been longer than that now. There again, my memory is kind of fragile. But at least to say, years and years ago, I owned a book called, let's see, what was it? 21 Lessons of Merlin, a study in Druidic magic and lore. It was one of the first books of magic that I owned, aside from the Big Blue Book and a few others. But as a kid, I was always fascinated with the legends surrounding Merlin and stuff like that, and so this book was just like the world to me back then. And there was a ritual in it to summon this sort of dragon spirit force. I wish I had the book in front of me to reference it, correctly. But anyway, there again, I was young and just getting into paganism, and decided, dead set that on Halloween I was going to do this ritual. And so I went with some friends hiking up to the top of this mountain, and performed this ritual by myself. And at least to say, I didn't see a dragon, or any spirits. And it was really windy up there, so I took that as a sign, and it was a kind of neat magical experience. But the really weird stuff happened afterward. So as I said, this took place on Halloween night. And I went up there and I did the ritual, did my thing, and it was a pretty long hike, like to get to the top of this mountain and then to come back. And so you're talking, it was probably like 3 or 4 a.m. by the time it was done, and I was back home. And I remember being in my bedroom, and for whatever reason I was laying on my stomach. I had my hands sort of outstretched like this, and they were underneath the pillow. And so I was just, kind of in that space of in between being awake and being asleep, but I was not asleep. And all of a sudden I felt this pressure on the pillow, as if someone else were putting their hands on top of the pillow, like beside my face, and like pressing down. It wasn't an intense force, it wasn't like someone was really trying to shove down hard, but it was enough that it was noticeable. I really don't believe that it was my imagination. So I remember, in that moment, at first there was fear, like what the hell's going on, because it was dark, and so, but then I raised up, and of course I didn't see anything. I didn't experience anything that night beyond that, but it was just really weird. And for years and years I have wondered, were there meaningful elements to that ritual? Did I in fact connect with some force or some energy? To this day I won't claim either way, but it was an interesting experience, to say the least. There have been a lot of those over the years. As I said before, I had a pretty bad tendency to dabble. The interest and the focus had always been there, but never really the dedication to start with a book like this and do the reading and the learning, and then try to approach it, safely and logically. So this new exploration of my spiritual path has been different, but I think very meaningful so far. I don't know how long this video is going to be. Like I said, I have not had a lot of sleep, so I'm just really floating. Outside of the boundaries of magic, another thing that I wanted to mention new, on the note of being grateful for things. I'm a really huge fan of a band, Iron and Wine. I like a lot of their work, more so their older stuff. But recently, and I say recently, within the past like 3 or 4 days, they released a new album, and there's one song on this album that I just love. It's called "Call It Dreaming," and the video for this song is really nice. I'm going to link to it in the description. In the video, there's this truck that's moving down this road, and as the video progresses, you see that the truck doesn't have a driver. It's just like this weird magical truck, and it starts picking up people randomly from all walks of life. And so as the video and the song progresses, they sort of become this moving like community of support and like love and goodness, between each other. And it's just, you would have to listen to the song and see the video really for you to get what I'm saying. But it's just beautiful, and I love it. And it's just, finding this video has come at a really good time for me, because I'm going through some stuff, and it's hard to put some of this into context. As I usually say, it's complicated, and it's not necessarily great, but it's not terrible, it's not bad. It's just, it is what it is. But yeah, finding this music, I'm in this space where I want to find things that are inspirational and meaningful, and particularly uplifting. In the past, I had a tendency to lean toward not necessarily depressing music, but definitely music that had a more somber tone, that was slow and, I don't know, sort of haunting. And I find that although I enjoy that music, it tends to alter my emotions and my thoughts. So the way that I live now, I'm a little more attentive and aware of what I listen to. So finding this song was really great, and I want to find more music that's sort of in the same vein. That would be really great. So, more on the note of updates. One really awesome thing happened today. In between me, running these errands and doing all this work and stuff, there was an online live and free tarot reading done by Crystal. I mentioned her. Her channel is Seer's Cottage, and so she did a reading for me about some things that recently I've been concerned about, trying to connect with my spirit guides and trying to figure out, my matron and my patron, trying to feel that deeper connection within my spiritual path and the work that I've been doing. And I think the reading was very spot on. I took some notes. I need to go back and rewatch the video to make sure that I got everything jotted down. But it was just really cool. There were a lot of people there in the chat, and there was a lot of conversation and dialogue, and it was really neat to watch someone else, work with her cards, see how she approaches it. And so, yeah, all in all, it was just really enjoyable. And here I have at the bottom, that's the big part of the reason, I've said this before, why I'm making these videos to start with, because it really helps me. The groups that I'm in on Facebook and the community that I found on YouTube, it's just so meaningful to know that there are other people out there who are interested in the same thing, and some of them, like me, are new to their path, and so, possibly they're facing some of the same challenges, and there's just a lot of feedback and give and take, and a lot of learning. I really value that opportunity to learn from another person via what they've gone through or what they had to say, what they figured out. It's very meaningful to me. So that really rounds out there again what I wanted to cover in this video. I'm going to do a reading here in a moment. Yeah, these past few days have just sort of been a blur, you know. This was a lot going on. A lot of reading, a lot of research, a lot of study, and stuff outside of all that. And I don't. The next few days, I don't foresee things slowing down really. The full moon is on the 6th of this coming month, and then we've got the autumn equinox at the end of the month. So yeah, it's like there's a lot coming up, a lot to plan for, and I haven't decided what I'm gonna do for the full moon or for the holiday. I have decided that I'm gonna celebrate the holiday, but I don't know what I'm gonna do yet. So that's up in the air. I've been doing research on that, particularly a channel that I mentioned. I've mentioned this channel before on YouTube, Mirth and Reverence. Annie has several posts that she made about this coming holiday, and so I've kind of been going through her stuff to see what she has to say about it. And if I can remember, I'll link to that too in the description. So yeah, new stuff, good stuff, challenges. I had another reading. I found there was an advertisement in one of the groups that I'm in on Facebook, and this was like, I don't know, the day before yesterday, I think, where this person was offering a free reading if you went to their page and liked it or something, and so because for me, I'm sort of feeling my way through this spiritual path. I'm very open to getting readings and seeing, what kind of feedback people have to lend. And I didn't know what to expect from this reading whatsoever, not knowing anything at all about this person. So the reading came today, and it's really hard for me to say how I feel about the reading. But let me be clear, I'm not saying that I think the reading was bad or necessarily inaccurate. Having read some other reviews of readings that this person had given to some other people, there's this sort of theme of people saying, the person doing these readings, I don't remember the name now, but I will link to it. I'll have to hunt it, but I'll link to it so you can go to the page and check it out if you want. But anyway, the reviews hint that the person doing these readings is very sort of straightforward and no nonsense, which I'm not at all saying that that's bad. But the reading particularly that I got, it was, I'm not going to quantify it and say that it was harsh, but I mean, it was like, there again, it was very straightforward and to the point. And what was said to me in the reading was a lot to take in the moment. I don't have it in front of me. I didn't know that I was going to include this, so I can't read it word for word. But when you go to the page, you can see it, because the way this person does their thing, I think it's a woman. I'm going to say it's a woman. If I'm wrong, then so be it. But I think the way she's got it set up, like she does these as public readings. So, but she put my name like in the reading on the page, so you should be able to go there and see it. I'm pretty sure. I'm going to link to the page. So, but anyway, she said something to the effect. I had asked about connecting with my matron and my patron, and I don't remember now the first part of what she said. But I mean, it made sense to me, whatever it was, now that I recall. But the second part, it wasn't that it didn't make sense, but there again, it was a lot to swallow, because basically she said something like, you need to sit down and make a list of why you think your matron and your patron should connect to you, and why do you think they wouldn't want to connect to you. And that was the part that I was like, what the hell? I mean, like, in my mind, I'm thinking like there are these beings out there somewhere in the universe, or in another dimension that we're not aware of, or wherever they are. Maybe they're right here, right now, and if you were intuitive, perhaps you can see them, but I can't at this moment. So, but anyway, like there's this just sort of in my brain, there was this. I hate to use the word assumption, but there was just this thought that, I mean, you've got somewhat of an enlightened being, so I don't understand why, it would not want to connect with me if supposedly it's going to be, if they, I should say, rather than it, if they are going to be my matron and patron. It's like a community thing. So I don't know, like that was really weird to think, like, why wouldn't they want to connect to me? Because that implies that I either am doing something now in my life, quote unquote, wrong, or like there's some fault there somewhere, and I don't know. I haven't figured that out. Like I don't know how to put that in perspective. But I intend to take the reading seriously, at least to the extent to sit down and make this list and try to look at it and be open to it, because I don't necessarily intuitively feel that it's bullshit. At the same time, I don't know how much stock I put in it fully, so it's hit or miss, But I did leave a comment there, thanking the person for doing the reading, and I intend to look further, into that to see what comes of that. I don't know how that'll pan out. It's just strange, man. It really came out of the blue. Like I was not expecting that whatsoever. Um, as I said earlier, I personally, now granted this is biased, but I feel like I have I've put forth a lot of effort to be open and self-aware, and to try to shift, like lifestyle, to try to work on my sleep schedule and make a lot of positive changes in my life to bring some positive effects, and make some of these connections. A lot of these things, though, are not going to happen in a day. They're it's a procedure of small steps. So certainly, I understand. A part of it for me is having to learn to be patient, because as I mentioned, in some of the podcasts, like I want to go out and do a certain amount of work and then be able to look back and see, okay, I've made 5%, movement in this direction, and eventually it's going to be 20% and then 50. And it just doesn't work that way. Life doesn't work that way, and I know that. It's difficult, I mean, you want like a whisper in the darkness, or you want some semblance, some feeling that you are indeed making progress or moving in the right direction. I think that's the real hardship, when you don't have that connection with your guides for whatever reason. At times you feel, they're in, like you're on a boat, out in the middle of the ocean somewhere, and you don't know if you're moving toward land or not. You could be just going in circles. So, but I mean, that's a part of it. I think it's foolish to view that in a nihilistic way and allow it to be, something that defeats your effort or your inertia. That's a waste of time. I think it's just important, to be open, to move from the heart, and just try to do the best you can, which is what I've been doing. But as I said, that reading that I had earlier today, with Crystal, I thought it was really spot on. She listed several things, that I can do to make some progress with some of these problems. So I'm definitely going to follow up with that, and see where that leads. But yeah, it's a lot, a lot going on, a lot to sort through. But yeah, the overall theme the past few days, and I do believe intrinsically there's a resonance here and a synchronicity. I have found the more that I've taken time away from study and invested in doing things you know, like just reading a book because I wanted to enjoy a book, you know, or watching that TV show because I wanted to enjoy it. It was something that I could do while I had my meal, you know, and it was the more I have done those things, and like that music, the more I have felt this shift within, and I've had these moments of just very powerful gratitude for small things, you know, just and especially also there again for people, which is why I felt such a push to make this video. Um, you know, the whole notion is you want to give something back. You know, certainly I'm not an expert at reading these oracle cards. You know, nor am I an expert on this subject matter. But I think effort is important, and it is a goal, you know, overall to network and meet new people and make some meaningful friendships in the pagan community. And I don't think that you'll reach that goal, you know, via isolation. Or so to me, a part of it is doing work like this, like making these videos and reaching out, leaving comments, and talking to people, you know, learning more about their experience. That's all that I have on my notes here. I mean, there's more stuff really that has gone on. I'll mention this quickly before I do the reading, and then that's going to be the summation of it, I think. But maybe I had mentioned this before. I don't remember now, but there have been some things going on for a long time. Oh, I remember now. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling here, but going back to the two card reading thing from Facebook, which there again I will link to. The first part of that, basically, she was saying that my matron and my patron have been sending me messages and trying to contact me, and I haven't been listening or haven't been, you know, and that's really frustrating to me if that is true, because I don't consider myself to be completely oblivious, and I've been trying to put forth a conscious effort, you know, to be open and to look for synchronicity and to try to pick up on some of these threads. So that's telling me that obviously I've got to double up on that effort somehow, some way, you know, like if that reading is accurate, then I'm at fault somewhere. So I don't know about that, but it leads into what I'm talking about now. There's these strange things that have been occurring, and this really has been going on for years now. But the first part of this I will mention. Um, it comes down to unusual electrical, you know, surges, like lights flickering, or I have a series of fans that I run sometimes in this room and throughout the house in different parts. And I can be in a room and for no apparent reason, like the fan will just speed up. Now I'm not saying like supersonic speed, but I have really good hearing. And so I can detect, you know, when something is running faster than it was like a minute ago. And if you haven't turned that little knob that shifts it to the next gear, like it shouldn't be doing that. So weird, strange events like that have been occurring recently, as well as like I wouldn't necessarily say hearing footsteps. Like I have an attic above me in the ceiling, but it's not. I mean, you're talking maybe I don't know, like 3 foot of clearance space. It's not tall enough for someone to actually be up there and like be walking. Um, so yeah, I don't know what's going on, but sometimes I hear noises up there, you know, as if someone were walking. And that's been pretty consistent recently at different times, you know, during the night more so than during the day. Um, so there again, I don't know if that is, you know, just some random occurrence in the universe, or if that's, you know, some of my spirit guides trying to reach out to me to say I'm here. And so I have adopted this new practice. When I notice these things or I hear those noises, I will say something like, you know, I'm here and I notice, you know, whatever it is that you're doing. You know, if you're trying to contact me, find another way, or, you know, continue doing what you're doing, or, you know, I think eventually what I might do is start experimenting with a pendulum. and see what happens from there. I have noticed that Crystal uses a pendulum in her readings sometimes to get a very definite answer about a card, or a specific part of the reading. She will use her pendulum, and I think maybe she has some videos on her channel about that, about learning to use one. So I need to look into that more and invest in getting one. I think that's what I will do in the future. Perhaps that will help. And I do think working with the cards ultimately will aid in that process as well. So speaking of the cards, I am going to attempt a reading. So we will see what happens with that. I have not used these cards since the other day when I did that other video. I want to get to a point where I do this every day, and it may come down to some unusual process where I just get the phone book out and do a reading for some stranger who may never actually get the reading. But I just feel strange about doing the reading for myself at this moment. So I'm using the same deck that I showed you in the other video. If you haven't seen the other video, I suggest you check it out. This is the Heart of the Fairy Oracle. I'm just going to shuffle the deck some to integrate my energies in with the deck. And I'm going to take a moment here to connect. Okay, let's do another little shuffle here or two, and then we will lay out some cards and see what we see. And there again, I do not have the book for this deck, and so I will not be referencing it. I'm going to lay these cards out, and then I'll mention something about that. Let's go 1, 2, 3. Okay, so what I wanted to reference, and I'll have to look this back up. I started a new practice. Started this today, and I think it will prove to be very useful. As I have mentioned before, my memory is very faulty, so I have a hard time retaining information unless it's something that I'm super interested in, or unless it made a huge impact, But anyway, I started this practice earlier today of, if I'm watching a video on YouTube about the subject matter and I come across something that's really interesting, I note down the name of the video, the person who did it, and the timestamp, and a little, thing of like what it is, the core of what I got from it, or what I enjoyed, or what I agreed with, or whatever. So I will try to remember to link this in the description as well, but this is a video on YouTube. The video is Becoming a Medium. It's by Karen A. Dahlman. I probably ruined her name, but anyway, she's interviewing this guy. Now, I didn't write down his name, but you'll find it via the link. And he is talking about working with tarot, and therein synchronicity at 33:33 was the timestamp. He's talking about how the card is a jumping off point, and I really believe that. I mean, that's just my personal experience right now as someone who's inexperienced in reading, but to me it's like, when I turn over this card, I don't want to be locked into some concept of, you know, here in this book, this is exactly what this card means, and I don't want that necessarily to derail or to guide my intuitive abilities. Like I want my feelings and my interpretations of the images of what I see to be much more coming from the imagination and hopefully, you know, from my gift or from a source or what have you. So yeah, I just thought that I would share that. But like I said, I will try to link to it. I'll have to rewatch this video to remember all these things I've got to link to now. But let us look at the first card. Well. Before I get into what this card is, it reminds me, I don't know if I mentioned this the other day or not, but when I made the decision to start using these cards, there was a video. This is another video that I will try to link to. I watched a video on YouTube where this woman is giving advice about starting off with tarot or oracle cards, and what she recommends is that you lay out all the cards in your deck, look at all of them, and you pick out 3 cards. You pick out the one that you like the best, the one that you're drawn to. You pick out one card that you know is your least favorite, or one that kind of makes you feel strange or whatever, and then you pick out one that's neutral. And so when I did this card was not one of the ones that I picked, but it was sort of in that list of one of the cards that I would have picked that just sort of spoke to me, but I wasn't sure, you know, the message. So I just wanted to share that. But let me get back to the focus here. First, I'll show you this card, and then we'll see what we see. So this card is the Paradox, and as you can see, it's a face that can be viewed, you know, either up or down. Not having sleep is not aiding in this process. I don't. From what I'm feeling from this card, like on the surface level, for me, when I think of paradox, I think of questions without end, or questions that spiral, you know, in a way that there's no resolution. But I'm not getting that impression from this card. When I'm looking at this face and the way that this card is done, it's a strange thing of like, the impression I get is someone saying, there's a mystery here, you know, something hidden. And so possibly the paradox is unraveling the layers until you get to the mystery. But that's what I'm getting from this card. Like someone standing, you know, on the other side of a threshold, and they're saying there's a mystery here, but it's serious. Like it's like, focus on this and unravel this. I think that's all I have for that card, at least for this moment. I'm gonna go on to the next one. Okay. I remember this card as well from laying them out. Yeah, that's gonna take some thought to see how that plays in. I don't know how well these are showing up via the webcam, but this card is called the Temptation. And there are 2 main figures in this card. There is a Pan-like figure in the forefront, who is sort of melted into this tree. And then behind him is a woman, and it appears as though she is holding what looks like maybe a pear in an outstretched hand. She has a floral wreath around her head, and she's focused on the pear. and this pan-like figure is more intent, facing out the card. I don't know if this reading is speaking to me or someone else, but my interpretations are more, for this moment, inward. I'm not sure why, but yeah. What I'm getting from this card is that a big part of the issue with this paradox is this whole notion of the temptation. It's the temptation is focusing on the paradox rather than being open to that thing that is hidden. It's like this temptation has become a spiral, or um, it's become a mirage or something to distract. It is the distraction. That's what I get from this. Okay. Yeah, I'll have to think about this one. I'll have to ponder it a moment, but I'll go ahead and show it to you. So yeah, this is the Prince of Shadows. And I don't know about this card. I mean, just at first glance, on a very raw, intuitive spot, if I were reading this for myself, which wasn't my intention to do from the get-go, I would say that this is, a patron or a matron or a spirit guide. Like this is a force outside of the scenario, very silently watching this part of it to see what the person is going to do. So, I mean, you can almost say like a universal observer here. I mean, and I feel this. I don't consider this Prince of Shadows to be like dark or negative at all. But what I'm feeling here is like wisdom and knowledge, and enough knowledge to know that interference isn't the way. So this is like a silent partner, which in truth that interconnects to the reading that Crystal gave me earlier today. So that's not surprising now that I'm sitting here looking at these cards. Yeah, those are my feelings. Granted, that may have been a little rushed, but I feel okay with it. And as I say very often in my videos and in my podcast, this whole experience for me has been an experience in learning. I feel like every time I turn a corner, I have a new understanding. It isn't at all what I had expected, and I don't say that in a negative way whatsoever. But there again, it's about the echo of the readings that I have gotten recently have basically said, you need to sit down and enjoy a book and focus on balancing your life and being open to what comes to you rather than chasing shadow and having, a grand expectation. Which therein is the lesson that I'm learning or trying to learn. That's my intent. But I consider all this very valuable, and I love working with these cards. There's something about drawing a card and then trying to intuitively reach into it. I don't know, it just sets my soul on fire. Like, I could do this all day, which, I mean, that wouldn't be healthy for me, obviously to do, but it's just, I love it. Ever since I did that reading in the other video, like, I knew I was going to do it again in the next video. It calls to me. So I hope to do more of this in the future. Definitely. And as I said, I would like to get a tarot deck sometime soon. I don't know how soon that'll be, but we'll see how it plays out. I need to go online and do some browsing of different decks. I mentioned in one of my podcasts, I used to own the Crowley deck, and I think it's really beautiful. But I don't know if it speaks to me. There again, I'm not certain that you can know that until you hold a deck in your hand or you have some sort of relationship with it. When I first laid all these cards out, there were a few cards in this deck, I mean, that I was just kind of like, that's, like, it doesn't speak to me. Like, I wasn't, on this top sort of more logical level, I was looking at the cards and saying, I don't see the level of symbolism, that I was hoping for in this deck. But I mean, so far I feel like the energy between the deck and I, like I'm learning more, I think, about the process, and it's just, I really enjoy it. So yeah, that pretty much covers what I wanted to cover in this video. There again, I haven't had a lot of sleep, and so I apologize that this episode wasn't filled with some logical sort of tasking of something that may or may not be useful. I mean, it's just circumstances, but certainly I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I will be making hopefully more videos in the future as time and circumstance allows, preferably when I've had a little more sleep and I have something more concrete planned out to discuss. One thing I'll say, and I'll add this too, I'm trying to search my mind now because things are really foggy at the moment. Trying to remember how I came. Oh, I remember now. I had went to Witchvox, and I was checking my account there, and looking around at some of the groups and people and stuff, and for the listings there for North Carolina, there aren't a lot of new listings. I think maybe there's like 4 or 5 for the whole state. But there was one very recently. I think it was like the 20th of this month or something. And so I went and looked at the profile, and there was a website linked to the profile, and you're like going down the rabbit hole. So I went to the website, and it led to a YouTube channel, and I'll link to it. Man, I've got a lot of links to put in this. But the YouTube channel, like, I watched, they did what they called a podcast, but it was really a video where they were just sitting off camera and talking. But it was kind of interesting. They were talking about, there's 3 people, and they were talking about their own spiritual journeys and things that they had experienced, and the different deities that they worked with. And it was more of like an introduction to the videos that they will be putting out in the future. So I went ahead and subscribed to that. It seemed interesting to me, and I'm kind of curious to see what else they put out. And like me, they have a small channel. I mean, I think maybe they had 6 subscriptions, maybe, or something like that. So I think it's good to lend support, if you're interested in the subject matter. So yeah, that pretty well sums things up, I believe. my goal is to try to get some rest. I need to do that soon. But yeah, if you have comments or suggestions for future videos or questions that you want me to cover, I'd certainly be willing to do that. Someone left me a comment in the last video about the cup, I believe it was. You know, this little Halloween theme that's going on over here, and I mean, that was cool. You know, I love Halloween. It's one of my favorite holidays, and for me, there weren't a ton of what I would consider to be like precious childhood memories. Um, but things involving Halloween remind me of positive elements of childhood, and so yeah, it's just there's a wellness to it, you know, that I appreciate. Um, so, but yeah, definitely, you know, drop a message if you're inclined. I will and do encourage you to check out the video, the music video, Iron and Wine, like I mentioned. Check out the TV series. As I mentioned in the last video, if you know of a book that you would recommend that I read, you know, for pleasure, not necessarily about magic or the study of it, you know, let me know about that. And yeah, as I usually say, I hope all of you are well. Sorry there again that this video was a little here and there. Um, I hope to do another video soon, and I will talk to you soon. Have a good night.